So today's creative tip actually came from a couple books that I've been reading. One was called Against Creativity by Ollie Mould. And it was a really interesting thing because it kind of breaks down how currently in our current society, anything creative is sort of monetized. So, do you have a New York Times bestseller? Is your painting worth a lot of money in a gallery? How much are your poems worth? All that fun stuff. But we sort of go to that first. When I say I'm a writer, people immediately are like, oh, like how many books have you sold? Are you on a bestseller list? My brother actually asked to see the spreadsheet once, and I was like, that's a little weird. But we usually associate creativity, monetization. The more money you're making from it, the more successful it is. And Mould in this book kind of says that we should forget that, throw that out. What we should redefine creativity is like serving the collective whole and using your imagination to support diverse systems and more equitable systems. And that's really the true use and most valuable use of creativity. So it brought up a lot of interesting things for me because I think it, disassociating creativity from money is actually, I think, a really valuable thing. Creativity just as a daily practice is a really powerful way to sort of process emotions, feelings. Sometimes words and verbal communication aren't the best way, but a creative outlet can do that. This book, the second book I was talking about, Your Brain on Art, will always push this. But they do a lot of great research about folks who have gone through trauma, war veterans, folks with neurodivergence, people who have lost mobility, and just how dancing and music and mask making help them sort of mine their feelings and better communicate those in a way that maybe they can't do so verbally. In the same book, they kind of talk about how actually when you go through a trauma, sometimes you get limited access to the broca area with language, and there's just sort of a disconnect, but doing creative acts can kind of open that up. So that is all separate from trying to sell something, which is just a really valuable part of overall wellness. So there's three things I think are kind of cool to take away from this when you separate creativity from money. So one, I think if you disassociate and make creativity part of your daily ritual, daily acts, it can help remove the pressure of the monetization part of creativity. It's just something you do, like going for a walk, going to the gym, something that helps you process emotions in different ways and communicate in different ways, which I think is super valuable. And also helps make that mental shift from I have to make something and I have to be able to sell it or it's not worthwhile, because your overall wellness can be affected by creativity too. Two is, I think, even if you do have something that you monetize and you're successful, whether you're a best-selling author, painter, sculptor, musician, having a separate creative act and outlet can be really valuable and can also help you avoid burnout in the main creative act. There's lots of folks, or even scientists who do lots of creative work, but they have, photography, painting on the side, just to sort of help them kind of zone out. And once again, for the wellness fact, kind of relax Zen state. So even if you do make money creatively, it's also helpful to have a hobby that's creative outside that to kind of help you process in different ways and not have that pressure. And finally, there's this weird paradoxical thing where if you kind of are a creative person and you start thinking less and less about what other people think, you sort of mine deeper emotionally, and that emotional work can create more specific stories that actually do resonate more broadly. It's kind of wild, but it is paradoxical where you see a lot of these anecdotes where folks say, oh, I stopped worrying about what people think, and then I made this thing, and then it got even bigger. Adele famously, when she was making 25, felt so much pressure, and then she said, you know what, I'm just gonna write an album where I'm at and see where it goes, and then the next album did really well as well. So sometimes that weird creativity paradox, when you turn away from expectations of what you think people will want that will sell, and mine personally, you create something that in the specificity is universal in different ways. Creativity, trying to separate it from money, or, just, monetizing what you're working on is really helpful because it's great for personal wellness. Two, even if you are making money, having a separate hobby is really valuable and beneficial. And then three, of course, there's a weird paradox where probably, when you stop thinking so much about what other people are thinking, how to monetize something, you sometimes will come up with something very powerful that other people will relate to. So that is the creative tip for today. So try to make creativity a daily practice. It will help you process emotion and communicate in really great ways. And not everything has to be for sale. So there you go. today's creative exercise is around the theme of, finding things that you might not monetize, but you still enjoy and can explore creatively. So it's pretty straightforward. Just set 10 to 15 minutes on a timer and write out a list of things that you would do without getting paid. My list included things like eating Taco Bell, playing with cats and dogs, board games, video games, that kind of stuff. And just keep writing it down. And then after the 10 minutes is up, kind of mine it and see if you can explore any of those things creatively. So for me, I actually found, the board games and the video games thing interesting because I do weirdly in my free time sometimes sketch out ideas for video games. I haven't done card games yet, but might play with that. So pretty straightforward task. Just write down for 5-10 minutes things that you would do without getting paid. I wish I could get paid for eating Taco Bell, but sadly not a possibility. And once you have a list, kind of go through it and see if there's any hidden hobbies in that space, and see if maybe there's something you could do and do in your free time that you don't have to worry about, making money or monetizing or polishing for an audience, but just doing it to enjoy. So this week, thinking about creativity sort of outside of the realm of what your main source of creativity, so what you go to out of instinct, and what you may try to find success in that field. I'm a writer, I write books, post them on Amazon, so what can I do outside of that? So today's creative exercise is to kind of go outside your normal area of creative expertise. Wow. I'm gonna keep that in because obviously making videos is not my area of expertise. But go outside of your normal area of creative expertise and see, if there's anything that, interests you that you could investigate or play a little bit in. And in doing so, you might feed into your main area. So for instance, in my case, last year I actually wrote a lot of poetry. It was not good poetry, but I put together a little book in addition to what I was working on. And it was really fun. And actually I found that in writing the poems and doing some more, figurative language and having some more fun with that kind of play with language, it actually fed into what I was working on creatively with fiction and prose. So kind of fun. Just go outside of what you normally do. If you write fiction, write nonfiction, usually write articles on Medium, maybe try to do some creative writing, some fiction pieces. If you're a painter or a musician, try to cross over into a visual art or music and see if that crossover works. But just to kind of experiment a little bit, see what comes up, and try to do it a little frequently, so over a week or so, and see if you'll see any effects from that other field play into what you usually do in your area of expertise. Got it. Third time's a charm. So go have fun, play outside your field, and see what comes up. So closing out this week of exercises that have to do with creativity outside of the scope of monetization, just making creativity sort of your daily routine. If you have a main creative interest, kind of looking at side hobbies or ways to explore creatively that you don't have to put that pressure on yourself to be successful or share with others. So in this exercise, I want you to just look up one of your favorite artists and then see what else they did. So in addition, if you have a favorite musical artist, look into them, find their Wikipedia page, search that artist, hobbies, interests, and see if you can find any fun facts or any crossover or new things that they did outside of the realm of, making whatever you're most interested in. This exercise took me on a weird journey. I looked up Ariana Grande initially, and I learned that she likes to hike, and also that she hated her debut single. It was interesting. George Saunders, I looked up, and I didn't find a lot of hobbies or interests, but I learned he was an objectivist in his 20s, which was interesting. And then I finally got to just search Einstein hobbies, and that was really rich because Einstein, is maybe not usually thought of as a creative in terms of art, but hugely creative in the realm of science. And he really loved playing the violin, puzzles, and had those side hobbies and interests to keep his mind preoccupied and kind of work through when he wasn't, changing the world through science. So pretty interesting exercise. Probably should take a few minutes, but look up one of your creative icons, heroes, and see what else they did in addition to their main thing. There could be some surprises. You might learn some of your favorite artists or cooks or chefs on the side, whatever it is. But a lot of those people have these side hustles that kind of make them feel safer and have less pressure that can also feed into their main interest. So check it out.